Hello, am I audible? Yes, maybe I'll reduce the volume. Hello, hello, yeah. So let's start the session for today. Good evening, everybody. Okay. Fine. Yes. So today we are going to see some of the expenses under form CRA 1, that is जो record rules है, accordingly the cost records need to be maintained. Okay, so we are going to go through research and development expenses, quality control expenses, pollution control expenses for today. Okay, just 3 topics. Then later on I have forwarded few problems in WhatsApp, so we will do those problems also. Okay, and then move on with the cost accounting standard 1. We will start with the cost accounting standards also. Hi Anu, good evening. Am I audible?
Yes ma'am, good evening.
Okay, so you are also equally audible, so it's all good. So today we are going to talk about research and development cost. Okay, so what is this R&D cost? Usually the companies have a different wing or a different department for research and development. Why is it so? Because innovations should go on and the product improvements will happen through R&D. R&D is one of the ways in which you can sustain the market, the competition, and at the same time enhancement of the business, growth of the business, everything depends upon the R&D things, and especially the one company which is dependent on technological advancements, usually they go by, they do have a separate wing on R&D, or else their products will become redundant. Okay, so what are the things that we need to take in case of or consider in case of research and development cost? See, whichever is generic in nature, like for example, financial cost, should it be included or excluded? Yeah, finance cost should be excluded. What about imputed cost? Imputed cost should be excluded. Then what about penalties, fines and other things which are, it should be excluded, and that forms part of profit reconciliation. If standard costing is maintained, then variances also needs to be reported. So these are all some generic things that is common for all the expenses. So I have not included those things under this notes. Okay, soon I'll be posting this in the Google Drive and sharing the link with you. So similarly, here in research and development costs, there are a lot of exceptions and lot of rules that needs to be followed. So that is why we have given the important points that needs to be taken into consideration. So that day I was speaking about the Mission Mangal, that is for the Mars project. So if you would have seen the movie, you know that, like, what are all the costs that they incur separately for that is how it is costed. And in-house research and development department, so in-house matlab everything is inside the organization which is being supplied. So all those things should be taken into consideration for cost calculations. So what does the first point say? So when it comes to research and development cost, it shall include all the costs that are directly traceable to research and development activities or that can be assigned to R&D activities strictly on cause and effect and benefits received. Okay, these two are important principle. When you are not able to trace a particular cost to a cost object, then you can go by 2 principles that will be helpful in tracking the cost. One is the cause and effect, another one is the benefit received. Cause and effect is what cost you have incurred, okay, and what is the impact. That is cause and effect. Benefits received is what is the final result of such an activity. Then comes what are all the things that needs to be included in the cost. First one is cost of materials and services consumed in R&D activities, cost of bought out materials and hired services. Like if you are buying something for that, then the invoices will be taken into consideration, whatever is there inside the agreed price, invoice value. Salaries, wages and other related cost of personnel who are engaged in R&D. research and development. Then you have also equipments and facilities and other tangible assets which you will be using in your R&D site. So the depreciation of those things will also be included. Then coming to overhead cost, other than general administrative cost. Why they have given this provision of other than general administrative cost is, usually general administrative cost is the cost which is allocated. It is based on allocated. It is mostly known as allocated cost. So the cost of the company which is just allocated to the departments. So you need not take that under R&D. R&D ke liye whichever is the administrative cost which is related to that R&D activity should be taken into consideration. Then cost incurred for carrying out research and development activities by other entities and charged to the entity. That is, you might be having your facility for R&D, someone will be using your R&D facility, so at that time whatever you charge them will also form part of it. Expenditure incurred in securing the copyrights or licenses. When it comes to intangible assets, you have to get some license or copyrights, even that expenditure will be included. Expenditure incurred for developing computer software. Now everywhere we use computer software. So whatever is the expenditure incurred for that will also be taken into consideration. Cost incurred for the design of tools, jigs, molds and dies, if anything is used. Other costs that can be directly attributable will come under the thing. Now these are all some specific things. So research and development cost attributable to a specific cost object. If it is attributable to a specific cost object, it's very easy. You can directly book it to that cost center. Research and development cost which is not attributable to a specific cost object, so that will not form part of the product cost. Development cost which results in the creation of an intangible asset, like you are developing a software. Okay, it is an intangible asset. If you are developing that software will be used for many years. So what you have to do, the cost will be amortized for the number of years of usage. So that is why that they have given shall be amortized over its useful life. An assignment of development cost shall be based on the principle of benefits received. That is, वो software develop करने के बाद जो benefit आ रहा है, based on that is the cost assignment that happens. So this is regarding development cost alone, okay, which is resulting in a creation of an intangible asset. If R&D is incurred for the development of and improvement of an existing process or product, that is जो product आप already बना रहे हो and it is going to be an add-on to the existing product, then how should it be treated? It shall be treated in the cost of production directly. So the product that you are producing, you are doing something on that, you are renovating it, you are innovating it. In that case, you have to add it into the cost of production because it is already related to a product which you are manufacturing. But what if related to the improvement of an existing process or product continues for more than one accounting period? So this is like either you do something on the existing product. If you are doing something or innovating on something on the existing product, you directly add into the cost of production. But sometimes what happens, the research and development can also be like installation of some software or some processes in place which reduces your time of processing. So that is something intangible. Okay, it is process oriented and not product oriented. So in that case what happens, the cost of same shall be accumulated and amortized over the estimated period of use of the improved product. Okay, and then the amount allocated to a particular period, if it is for a particular period, it shall be included in the cost of production for that period alone. If the expenditure is only to improve the quality of the existing product or minor modification in attributes, then the principle shall not be applied. It should not be a minor modification or just a basic improvement in the quality. वो यहाँ पे नहीं आएगा. It will go under quality expenses. Then development cost attributable to saleable service, namely providing technical know-how to outside parties. That is, you have done a research and development and outcome of that is sold to someone else. So what you are going to receive income on the technical know-how support that you are going to provide to an outsider. So it shall be accumulated separately and treated as cost of providing the service. So there are different types of R&Ds. That is what it could be in the existing product, or it could be modification in the process, or it could be a new software or any idea that you generate and you sell it out to other customers. So that can also be the case in case of R&D. Then getting into quality control expenses. If you look at records, as such, records shall be maintained separately for the quality control department. Nowadays we have all these certifications, ISI certifications, there are many certifications. So for that they have a different quality department. So have you ever heard about Six Sigma thing? There is something called Six Sigma belt and all. So this is basically the quality control terminology. That is Six Sigma. Sigma is nothing but the standard deviation symbol. Six Sigma is so much. So you know how the standard deviation in a bell-shaped curve looks like. So in a bell-shaped curve, what happens is it narrows down at the ends on both the sides, right? It comes like a bell-shaped one. तो यहाँ पे देखेंगे on the x-axis and on the y-axis it will be on the x-axis it will be narrowed down on the both the sides. तो वो क्या है? That is number of defectives going very less. That is, if you are the businesses, the companies actually look into a cycle where the defects are very less, like 99.99% हो. So how much is your defect percentage? 0.001%. It's like, it is so ignorable, right? So quality control has become the norm for many companies. So they have their own quality control department. So for that department also they will be having cost booked. So that will come under quality control expenses. Quality control cost incurred in-house. So what is that they are talking about? So it is the aggregate of cost of resources consumed in the quality control activities. There are two types of quality control activities. One is prevention cost, another one is appraisal cost. What is prevention cost? Prevention cost is before something happens, you try to fix it up before itself so that you don't produce defective products. Appraisal cost is after the production is done, then you do the quality check. Like for example, you would have seen there are many channels in Discovery. You get Food Factory and many factories they show, right? So what happens, at last they will check the size of the products that is produced. So that is like appraisal. Once the production is done, then the appraisal is done. So what they do sampling. They will select one sample, they will test it. If it is fine, then they will go with it. So that is the appraisal cost once the production is done. But before something goes wrong, that is the proactive step, is what is prevention cost. Okay. So cost of conformance to quality, essentially it encompasses all the expenses incurred to ensure a product or service meets quality standards, including proactively preventing defects, which is called prevention cost. So is that good to have a prevention cost, or is that good to have an appraisal cost when it comes to QC? That is quality control. Prevention. So if what happens if you find defectives, then once again you have to do a rework, or sometimes it may go for scrap. So it is an additional cost. So always the organization looks from the perspective of the prevention cost, the quality control cost being the prevention cost. And practically in manufacturing industries, like for example, there are different processes that goes into a product production. Like for example, if you are looking into I was talking about cotton and yarn making, right? So what happens, they will test the cotton at each level, whether impurities have been removed or not. So every time the output of each and every process will be taken to that lab and it will be tested. If you look in sugar and distilleries, in RO plant itself, they will have a quality check. कि हाँ whether the pH level is less in the water or not. So they will check like that. There are different quality checks that happen. It is not like quality check happens at the end of the process once the final product is produced. So it's not that way. It happens at each and every level of production. Okay, so then what if it is traceable to the cost object? Any cost that is traceable to a cost object or a product is very easy. You can directly charge it to the cost center. But if not, then you have to allocate it based on the information available. So assignment of quality control cost to the cost objects. That is what? If it is not traceable, there are always two principles you got to go by. One is cause and effect, another one is benefits received. So everywhere this principle holds good. So when you look at the cause is the process or the operation or activity that is carried out, and effect is the cost incurred for carrying that process or operation. Benefit received is overheads are to be apportioned to the various cost objects in proportion to the benefit that you receive from them. Okay, so this is all about quality control expenses. Am I clear, Anu, or are you following it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Then coming to pollution control expenses. So this pollution control expenses is very, very important, because when we talk about climate change, a sustainable and clean energy, and when we are talking about effluents being mixed in the water and they are just like that discharged into water bodies, or when it comes to specific kind of industries, like for example textile industry mein, usually the norms are very strict because they use dyes and all, right? So all the like leather industries, so whatever is the wastage from that particular industry, if it is just like that left it out, I mean it's just sourced out through the water bodies, what will happen? The water bodies will be polluted. So that is why we have this pollution control expenses as part of costing. It's very, very important. So value, for example, I would even quote from sugar and distilleries. So what happens is there is an effluent treatment plan. So whatever cost that you incur on ETP, it is called effluent treatment plan or water treatment plan. WTP भी बोल सकते हैं, ETP भी बोल सकते हैं. So if I say, I'm just asking you a question, if the cost is incurred, see if you set up a plant, always there is a cost incurred. So where will you show this cost under the abridged cost statement? Can you just make a guess? Effluent treatment plant or water treatment plant. So they have a separate plant in the sense, not a big one, they have a small plant wherein whatever is the discharge of water from sugar and distilleries get into that plant, and there they treat it with chemicals and they remove all the toxic substances from the water, and that is let out in the fields for agriculture. Okay. Now this particular plant will incur cost. You will have people to work there. You will have all the equipments to do that. Right. So where will this particular cost be booked in your cost statement? Sorry. There is no separate thing for pollution control. You have something called utility. Okay, in utilities, I told you, right, utilities mein power aata hai, fuel aata hai, right, steam you get, and then what else, water, RO water. So similarly, ETP or WTP will be treated as an utility. Okay, so that is one of the case. So what they do is, I have another question, like, so there is water coming from output water. I am talking about once the process is done, you have water discharge. So that water will not be directly let into the fields, because you know sugar and distilleries are all placed where the fields are nearby, because only then the sugar cane can be easily transported to the sugar factory. So sugar factories you will find mostly near those villages, in the villages or in the rural areas, which is nearer to the farms. So what happens is, sugar ka jo discharged water hai, that has pollutants in it, that also goes to the plant, and you have also discharge of alcohol making, that is distillery, which will also get into those plants. So as I say, utilities have their own cost, like the effluent treatment plant will have their own cost. But how do we allocate? See, I told sugar is one of the main product. Distillery gives a product of spirit. So I have to allocate the cost to both of them. But all the cost is getting into that ETP. So what would you say? Which will be a good method to allocate the cost? Just think. I'll give you some time. शुगर का भी पानी जो डिस्चार्ज हो रहा है इट इज गेटिंग इनटू दैट प्लांट, इसका भी जो पानी डिस्चार्ज हो रहा है दैट इज ऑल्सो गेटिंग इनटू द प्लांट, बोथ आर गेटिंग प्रोसेस्ड एंड इट इज लेट आउट इनटू द फील्ड्स. नाउ देयर इज कॉस्ट इनकर्ड फॉर दिस, सो दिस कॉस्ट शुड बी अलोकेटेड बिटवीन शुगर एंड डिस्टिलरी. हाउ विल यू डू दैट? सॉरी, नॉट रेवेन्यू के बेसिस पे. Excellent. So that is how much is the wastewater output. So if these many liters of water, sugar ka, goes for the processing, we will also see how many liters comes from the distillery. Because sugar factory is a seasonal one. That only operates from November to March. So November to March ka pani mein hi ye mixing hoga. Right. But for the entire year the distillery works. Got it? So that is how you have to analyze. Either you have to go by the input for that plant or you have to go by the output for the plant. Decide, that will help you to decide on the basis on which it needs to be allocated. So if we find out the percentage or the ratio of how much water actually is discharged from each of the plant, from the sugar plant, from the distillery plant, it is easy that we can allocate this utility cost. Got it? But pollution control expenses, we should know what kind of expenses will first of all get booked into it. So we have state pollution board, right? So Maharashtra state board will charge some fees for that. There will be people coming for inspection. So you have to spend on that. You have to pay the fees. All that will be included in the quality control, pollution control expenses. So over here, what is included in pollution control expenses? First one is the direct cost, second one is indirect cost. Direct cost and indirect cost put together is the cost related to the pollution control activity. So actually what you should be very careful about is when you go through a cost accounting standard or cost record rules, wherever they give examples, right, just remember that and make a note of it. Because whenever a MCQ question is going to be asked, it will be based on those examples. Like for example, here direct cost में क्या है? Cost of material, consumable stores, spares, manpower, equipment usage, utilities, resources for testing, certification, and waste processing. So other identifiable resources consumed in activities such as waste processing, disposal, remediation and others are all direct cost, which you can directly relate. Yeah, this is related to my pollution control. There could be indirect cost, such as pollution control registration and such like expenses. So one time you have to do this registration, right? It is an indirect cost. It's not incurred every time, but you have to register once, right? So sometimes what they will ask, a question might be asked, pollution control registration fees has been paid. Is this direct cost or indirect cost while you treat pollution control expenses? So like that will be the question. Got it? So always from examples they pick up the questions. So it is better you also remember the examples very well, because that will help you to answer such MCQs. Okay, then cost of pollution control which are internal to the entity. It should be accounted for when incurred, and they should be measured at the historical cost of resources consumed, historical costing. Future remediation or disposal cost which are expected to be incurred. So what is this? Like for example, नदी का पानी pollute हो गया, okay, and for sure you know it is going to come on those industries which are placed near the river banks, and they got to spend money to clean up the river. So they know this is going to come as an expense in the future. It is more or less like a contingent expense, contingent liability की तरह ही रखो. So usually in such cases, if you look at financial accounting things, that is in the statutory reports, they can give that as a footnote to their balance sheet, stating that this cost should could be incurred in future relating to pollution control. But when it comes to costing, are we supposed to take this future remediation or disposal cost which are expected to be incurred? It is not incurred, which are expected. So with reasonable certainty as part of the contract or constructive obligation legally enforceable shall be estimated and accounted based on the quantum of pollution generated in each period and associated cost of remediation or disposal in future. For example, future disposal cost of solid waste generated during the current period should be estimated on say as per ton basis. So क्या है, they are telling you can just make an estimation कि इतना हो सकता है based on what? On the waste that is produced. If it is a solid waste, you say per ton. If you say it is a liquid waste, you say in liters. Okay, so on that basis it needs to be measured and considered. Though it is not incurred now, it is something which you will be incurring in the future. So this is a peculiar thing. So what we usually do, we don't take imputed cost, we don't take opportunity cost, but here it is a future cost that which is not incurred, but we are considering it on a reasonable basis. So this is important as part of pollution control expenses. We also have a separate cost accounting standard for pollution control. Okay, we will also be going through that. What about contingent future remediation or disposal cost? Example, those likely to arise on account of future legislative changes on pollution control. It shall not be treated as cost until the incidence of such cost becomes reasonably certain and can be measured. I don't know what happened. Okay. So that means contingent future, where you cannot estimate or this particular cost may or may not be incurred. We are not sure about it. When you are not sure about something, please don't include it in the pollution control cost. When you are sure about something, that is for sure this river body should be cleaned by us, then in that case it is certainly you are going to do, because the discharge of water pollutants are getting into the river bodies, I mean the water sources. So in that case that will be considered. So these two are peculiar and important things. External cost of pollution, which are generally the cost imposed on external parties, including social cost, are difficult to estimate with reasonable accuracy and are excluded from the general purpose cost statement. Social cost is the cost that the society is going to go through for the pollution that you have made. That cannot be actually quantified and that cannot be included in the cost statement. So social cost of pollution, see, this is another important thing when it comes to pollution. These are measured by economic models of cost measurement. The cost by way of compensation by the polluting entity, either under future legislation or under social pressure, cannot be quantified by traditional models of cost measurements. They are best kept out of general purpose cost statement. What is this? For example, if the water sources are polluted, okay, and there are a lot of people, residential areas which are by the water sources, that is nearby the water sources. So immediately there is a pandemic that has broken in that particular area. People are getting affected, they are getting diseased, okay, or due to the toxic waste disposal, even there is death of people. But how much is the cost of that thing that the society is bearing? Can you ever estimate it? You cannot estimate, right? So that is something called social cost. This cannot be included in our cost statement because with certainty you cannot tell how much is the cost. Got it? So this is one of the aspect of pollution control. Then cost of in-house pollution control. So it shall include cost of materials. So in-house pollution control is उस pollution control department में what are all the things that you incur will directly get into the cost. But if you give it to a contractor, okay, what will happen? So if it is given to a third party, you are not doing the pollution control by yourself. in-house नहीं कर रहे हैं, you are giving to a contractor who is taking care of that pollution control. Then whatever is the agreed price or the invoice, that will be taken as the cost. Okay, so it shall include the charges made by the contractor, and if you supply own materials or your own premises to them, it could be like you have your premises for pollution control, but you have somebody else working on it, because you don't have technical people who can do that pollution control. So you hire from somewhere else on a contract basis and you employ them to do that. So whatever expenses you meet will be considered. Each type of pollution control, water pollution, air pollution, soil pollution, all that shall be treated as a distinct activity. When it will be treated? If material and identifiable, then it will be treated. Research and development cost to develop new process, new products or use of new materials to avoid or mitigate pollution. We studied in research and development, right? If it is for pollution control, right? So over here if you see, improvement of the product creation, there was something about pollution over here. So we just worked on it. Improvement of the existing product or process. See, quality of existing product or process. So when we talk about pollution control, when that becomes part of your research and development, your R&D has resulted in reducing the pollution. So you have here two costs. एक क्या है, R&D के लिए you have spent, but what is the outcome? That is reduction in pollution. So where will you charge that? You will have a dilemma, whether I have to charge under research and development cost or whether do I have to charge under pollution control. Actually that R&D cost will come under pollution control. Got it? Yes. So that is what they are mentioning about. So research and development cost to develop new products or process which will avoid or mitigate the pollution. Mitigate means to transfer the pollution. So development cost incurred for commercial development of such product, process, material shall be included in pollution control cost. It will not be included in research and development. So here basically what is that you are looking at? You are looking at the benefits received and you are charging it, the cost. Direct cost of pollution control such as treatment and disposal of waste. So it will be directly assigned to the product. So as I told, sugar and distilleries, so whatever is the cost that you incur on the pollution control of these two things, of these two main products, will be allocated to the product directly. So that is what they are telling here. Whether these costs are not directly traceable, then what will you do? So what you do is, the cost shall be assigned to the products passing through the process based on the quantity of the pollutant generated by the product. So like I was telling, how do you allocate? Between sugar and distillery, it is based on the quantity of the pollutant which is generated by, that is the output water which is discharged by the sugar factory, by the distillery will be taken into consideration, and a ratio or a percentage will be calculated for such allocation and that will be applied. If it is not directly traceable, once again the two principles hold good. One is the cause and effect, another one is the benefits received. Got it? So under records, okay, we have seen R&D, quality control, pollution control expenses. Got it? So this is enough for today. Then now we will move on to problems, okay, to make it more interesting. So let's go to the problem. I'll just open up my WhatsApp and do some calculations to make it more interesting. Sorry. Yeah. I cannot rotate it. Okay. Anyway, you have it with you, right? Just a minute. Yes. So if you look at this problem, okay, you can see in your phone, okay, that will be much better. You can at least rotate it. I'm not able to rotate it here. Yeah, so I don't have the gallery. I'll save it as and then do it, okay? So I'll just rotate it as the rotate option. Yeah, this is fine. Okay? Yeah. So this is a very interesting thing, though it has been asked in 2019. Okay? The following are the process wise input and output. We have something called input output ratio. What is output ratio? How many kgs of input will give you how many kgs or tons of output. So it's not necessary the input and output should be in the same measurement. It can also change. Okay. Like for example, when we look at yeah. So for example, this is about a textile industry. So textile industry is basically based on which type of costing? Process costing. So if you look at the departments, it will be process wise. First it goes to blow room, then it comes to carding, then it comes to draw frames, then it goes to roving, and then it comes to ring frame. Got it? So you have input kg at each level, output kg at each level. What will happen? The input in blow room will give an output this much. This output will be once again the input for carding. Then it will go as an output. So input output process, say at last it will go through the ring frame and you will get the final product. Got it? Find the cotton input per 1000 kg of ring frame yarn output if initially the cotton underweight of 0.3 percentage moisture loss from the invoice weight. What is this underweight, moisture loss and all those things? Moisture loss is a normal loss. So that will be considered. So in case of normal loss, what we will do? Treatment of normal loss. We will divide it by total number of good units. Got it? So what happens in case of raw cotton? When it is freshly harvested from the fields, assuming the monsoon has just ended. So what will happen? The cotton will be much heavier. Got it? But when it is dried or when it is dried in the blow room, what will happen? Automatically the weight will come down. So that is a normal loss. This is because of the moisture loss. So this moisture loss being the normal loss, it should be considered. Now what they are asking, if you are going to put an input of 1000 kg of cotton in your blow room, how much will it fetch you in the ring frame? That is the final product. So if you are going to put 1000 kgs of cotton inside the blow room, it will go through blow room, carding, draw frames, roving, ring frame, and at last the yarn will be produced. Okay. So this is something very much peculiar to or specific to textile industry. So how are we going to do that? So there is something called waste multiplier which is used in textile industry. Exclusively it is used in the textile industry. So what I will do is I'll put all these things in an Excel sheet. Okay. So I'll just do it in this itself. This is waste multiplier. I'm yet to post. I'll post it by today, whatever I have created so far. So this is 2019 question. Okay. So what are we going to do this? One is you should know what is input output ratio. The next one is you should know what is waste multiplier. So I put the departments here: blow room, carding, draw frames, roving, ring frame. Okay. And I have the inputs here. It is all in kgs. So it is 41, 10, 38, 42, 123, 35, 48, 981, 34, 82, 360, and 35, 16, 085. And what is my output? 38, 27, 662, 35, 74, 310, 35, 07, 245. Thirty-four, 44, 054, 32, 73, yeah. Oh, okay. 07. 34, 44, 054, 32, 73, 475. If I have to find out the input output ratio, the calculation is simple. That is input divided by output. This is the input output ratio. So how much is my input? How much is the output from that? So basically it is coming to 1.07. This is to see. Yeah, sorry. Output upon input. Output divided by input will give you 93%. So that means almost 7% is your loss. Okay, so when you come to the, this is just a 4-mark question that they have asked. It is in 2019 December. Okay, so what you will do is, I'll just go to that also. Yes. So it is almost 93.13%. So if I just round it off, okay. So how much is this? This is input output loss. So this is input output ratio. We call it as IP ratio, which is equal to how much is the output divided by the input. So what is my loss out of this? This is called loss percentage. So what I can do is, this much is my output and this much is my input. So what is my loss percentage? Is the difference between the two divided by the input that goes inside. So what is the difference between these two? This minus this divided by because that is based on the input into 100. So this is my loss percentage. Got it? If this is my loss percentage, so what is my output percentage? Output is nothing but 100 minus 100 by 6.87. Okay, so is equal to 100 minus 100 by 6.87%. That will come to this thing. This is my output percentage. This is easier for the first one to calculate, but second one में क्या होगा? फिर से loss and output is based on the input of the previous process. So first process का output becomes the input for the next process. But here if you see, it won't be matching. Maybe they would have introduced something inside it. Okay, so actually speaking, see 38, 27, 662 is output. If we look at input output and input output, this output should actually become the input over here, but they have added something which is much more than this, right? So that is why we are having percentages in place. Now similarly the next one. So what is the loss percentage? It is 6.97. So what is my output percentage? Output percentage is not now 100 minus 6.87. It is 93.13 minus 6.97 percentage on my input of 93.13. So, should be percentage. So this is 86.63. Are you able to understand this, or do you want me to explain the formula? See, first thing, it is straightforward. What is my loss percentage? How much ever is my input? It should, if it gives the same output, then there is no loss. But it is not giving me the same output. So the difference becomes the loss. So what I do? Loss divided by input kgs. Got it? Into 100 gives me this. See, this minus this is the difference loss divided by the input. Clear about this? Similarly, it works for all these things. So if I am going to drag and drop this thing, these are all my loss percentages. Okay. When I go to output percentage, percentage is like I take 100 kgs. 100 kgs mein, if my loss is 6.873, then what is my output that it's going to give? Since it is a process based industry, we are measuring the percentages based on the output of one process as an input for another one. So that is why what is that I am doing in the output percentage over here? See, 93.13, which is the process output of the previous process, minus loss related to it. Are you able to understand? So the same thing will be applicable over here. So at last, if you have put 100 kgs here, how much it is fetching? 78.83. Because this is calculated in percentages. So 100 kgs हो तो 78.83 kgs आपका final product बनेगा. Are you able to understand? Yes. So here this is the place where you could go wrong, because I am referring to the previous output percentage and applying the loss on the previous output. Why is it so? In a process kind of an industry, the process is continuous and the output of one process becomes the input for the another process. Got it? Those who are online, are you able to understand? Yes? Anu and Rakesh?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So when you look at this, there is something called waste multiplier that I told you. What is this waste multiplier? This is very much used in textile industries. Okay. So what is this waste multiplier? How a loss can happen while processing cotton into yarn. So while I visited the factory, okay, I couldn't breathe there because there was lot of cotton that was flying in the air. So while you process cotton, even though it happens, there will be some places where it will be exposed to the environment. So due to air circulation and other things, it will start flying off from there. So what they do is constantly there will be people who will be picking the cotton. So there are different things, they call that as cotton droppings. They have different terminologies they use for cotton that is going waste. What they do is they collect all these waste and this is sold it out as a cotton waste. So cotton waste जो sale हो रहा है उसमें जो पैसे मिल रहे हैं, that is used for credit recoveries. Like sale of scrap, you adjust it with the cost, right? Similarly, cotton waste is not your final product. Yarn is your final product. Cotton waste is created while the entire process goes on. So that cotton waste, when it is sold out in the outside market, So what you do, you give that credit in the cost statement. Credit means you reduce that amount from the cost. Because I showed you in average cost statement, right? You have less credit for recoveries. So this will be included there under recoveries. Got it? So what is this waste multiplier? Waste multiplier is the output of a particular process divided by the final output of the process. That is called output of a process. I would say first output percentage divided by final output percentage is waste multiplier. So is equal to 93.13 divided by 7. So this is the waste multiplier over here, 1.81328. Okay. So if I have to calculate from the carding perspective, what I do? 86.64 divided by. Are you able to understand? This is the formula that is used for waste multiplier. Yes? This is waste multiplier at each stage. Those who are online, are you following it? But why have I calculated this waste multiplier? If you look at the question, what is that they are telling? They are talking about cotton input. So cotton input यहाँ पे कौन से department में हुआ होगा? First department in the blow room. How much are they giving the input as? 1000 kgs, right? And what happens? Cotton underweight moisture loss they have given 0.3 percentage from the invoice weight. Find the cotton input per 1000 kg of ring frame yarn. Sorry, output is 1000 kgs. How much should be the input in the blow room? That will result in 1000 kgs in your output with accounting, taking into account 0.3 percentage moisture loss. This is the question. Are you able to understand? So they are talking about output. Agar output, if I need 1000 kgs of yarn, then how much should be my input based on this input output record? Are you able to understand? So I got to produce 1000 kgs of yarn, which will be my final product from the ring frame. But what about how much of raw cotton should be purchased for this? This is the question that they are asking us. Are you able to understand? Yes. Now for this, we also should take into account the normal loss of 0.3 percentage, जो moisture loss है. क्योंकि the moisture is not going to anyway help you out with producing the cotton. वो process में क्या हो जाएगा? Blow room में they start removing, plucking up things and they start drying the cotton, जो raw cotton रहता है. तो तब क्या होता है? Automatically the moisture will go off. If the moisture goes off, your weightage of your input will reduce. So accordingly the yarn will be produced. So how are we going to calculate? So it is 1000 kgs, waste multiplier is 1.8138, right? Yeah, 1000 kgs is my output. My waste multiplier will be 1 divided by 0.997. Why is it so? 0.997, because that is a 0.3 percentage loss. I should take 1000 into the waste multiplier also. So 1.81328. 81328. 93.13, 6.87. Okay, I'll do by what I have calculated. So it is 1.81328. 181328 into so around 1184 kgs of cotton, raw cotton will result in 1000 kgs of yarn. Usually what we can do 1000 into waste multiplier, but we have to account for the normal loss. Normal loss में denominator में हम क्या लगाते हैं? How much ever is the good units we charge that waste multiplier. Yes, that will become the denominator. So the denominator is basically 0.997 because you remove that 0.3 percentage moisture. 99.7 percentage plus 0.3 will give you 100 percentage. So percentage में देखेंगे 99.7 divided by 100 will be 0.997. That's the thing. So are you able to understand? So 1184 kgs of raw cotton is required to produce 1000 kgs of yarn. Got it? You know for how many marks they have asked this question? Just for 4 marks they have asked it. But this is very much peculiar to a textile industry. You will not find this waste multiplier anywhere else. As of now, I know that it is applicable for textile industries, where they apply this waste multiplier. Got it? So I have chosen a specific kind of or a different kind of problems for solving. It's not the same kind of problems that I have chosen. So this is a new concept for you. When it comes to textile industry, there is a concept called waste multiplier. There is also a concept input-output ratio through which we determine the loss percentage and the output percentage. Waste multiplier is always the first output percentage divided by the final output percentage. That is the formula for waste multiplier. ठीक है? Got it? Yes, those who are online, are you able to understand? Any doubts? Yes, Anu, Rakesh?
Ma'am, can you just repeat the last one?
Which one? This formula?
Yeah.
Yeah. Usually, when we take 1000 kgs of yarn, what is this waste multiplier? That says, what is your wastage at each stage? So, if I have to produce 1000 kgs of yarn, how much kgs of raw cotton should get into it as an input? That is the question they are asking. So if the waste multiplier is 1.18, मतलब क्या है? For producing 1 kg of yarn, you require 1.18 kgs of cotton. That is what is the relationship between these two. Got it? So raw cotton कितना चाहिए? 1.18. I am just rounding off to 2 digits. इतना kgs लगेगा for giving you a fine yarn of 1 kg. Got it? This is what it refers to. So यहाँ पे अगर आप 1000 लगाएंगे तो यहाँ पे कितना आएगा? क्रॉस मल्टीप्लाई 1000 into 1.18. This is a direct thing, 1180. लेकिन इसमें there is a normal loss which is a moisture loss of 0.3 percentage. So you have to account for. So this 1180 should be the absolute value. वो आपका invoice value नहीं रहेगा. So अगर this is 99.7 percentage, तो आपका कितना procure करना पड़ेगा? 100 percentage procure करना पड़ेगा, right? 0.3 percentage घट जाएगा. तो कितना procurement रहेगा? 1180 into 100 divided by 99.70. See? 1183.5 kgs of raw cotton लेंगे, तब जाके वो moisture loss होके 1180 kgs पे रुकेगा, and उसे process करने से you will get 1000 kgs of yarn. Are you able to understand now?
Yes, ma'am.
So that is the concept behind it. So this one question एक ही बार पूछा गया था for 4 marks. But such things which are not there in the syllabus or not there in the book, it is better we go through all those problems, because sometimes by chance if it gets repeated or something like this comes into place, you will be able to answer. Got it? Many problems are finance cost and cost accounting, financial accounting profits and cost accounting profit reconciliation पे आता है and value addition पे आता है. These kind of things maybe sometimes if the paper is very tough or something, they may include such terminologies. So here what did you understand? What is input output ratio? How do you calculate the loss percentage and output percentage? And what is a waste multiplier in case of a textile industry? Got it? Yeah, any doubts?
Yes, yes.
No doubts, right? So I have chosen all the tough problems. So shall we take a 10 minutes break and move on to the next problem? Meanwhile, I'll save that problem and paste it here quickly. Yeah, any doubts? No doubts. Any doubts? You? No. Okay. So I'll just copy paste all those problems here and then we will do it. This is waste multiplier. So if you see in one of the format in textile rules, you will have this concept of waste multiplier there. उनके format में है. Yes, and now is that audible, Anu? Hello? Okay. So let's continue. I'll also call those who are attending the offline session. Give me a second. Okay. So let's go through this problem. So we saw one problem on textile industry. Now we will see another problem in case of sugarcane, and then we will see a problem on a distillery kind of an industry. Okay. So this will be nice. So, and what we are doing here is practically what is done. Okay, so that is one good thing, I would say. It's like this will be practically applied if you do the cost audit report. So Sunflag Sugar Mills Limited, located at Maharashtra, has a boiler used for its own byproduct, bagasse, as fuel for generating steam. The high pressure steam generator is first used for generation of the power, and the exhaust steam is used in the process of sugar manufacture. The following details are extracted from the financial accounts and cost accounting records of the company for the year ended 31st March 2015. So if you look, this is the production that they are making. So this is the quantitative detail. So their high pressure steam is generated, that is 34,780 metric tons is generated. Power is generated through the steam turbine, around 25 lakhs 40,000 kilowatt hours are produced. They have given the cost in each case. So when it comes to boiler, when you have to produce steam from the boiler, what is the input that goes into the boiler? So this is something very peculiar to the sugar industry. This will happen there. Now we saw the textile industry, right? So similarly in sugar industry, what happens with the cogen unit? It's called cogeneration unit that they have in their factory. So what happens is, if you look at steam production, what is your output? Output is steam, correct? So what are the inputs that will go? First material is bagasse, okay? Next one is RO water. These two, RO water will be burned using the fuel bagasse in the boiler. This will be converted into steam. What happens to this steam? The steam is first generated steam and you get exhaust steam. ओके, आउटपुट में दो तरीके के स्टीम बनते हैं. One is the first generated steam, another one is exhaust steam. What is this first generated steam? See, well, a steam is produced. What is produced? What kind of energies are produced together with steam? You have pressure for the steam, you have the heat, right? All these things put together, when it is high pressure and high heat, only that kind of a steam can be generated, I mean induced into the turbine, and electricity can be produced. So you need the pressure of the steam. So here you have two values playing in. One is the heat, another one is the pressure. So such things are called as enthalpy. That is one terminology to measure steam. That's called enthalpy. Okay, the heat and the pressure. जिसमें हीट और प्रेशर है, that goes into power generation. So this first generated steam goes to generation of power. Exhaust steam is used anywhere else in the sugar factory. ठीक है? So see how complicated it is. You are using the bagasse, you are boiling the RO water in the boiler, that is converted into steam, that will be actually transported through tubes, big tubes. Through that it will go to the turbine. So when it gets converted, gets into the tube, the first generated tube में से जो heat and pressure के साथ जो steam जाता है, that goes for power generation. Well, there is loss, exhaust, that escapes that particular stream will be tapped and that will be used inside the sugar factory. Steam is also used in other places. They have their other production processes where steam is also used. Okay. So here input is bagasse and RO water. Got it? They are talking about another output which is your power. Okay. So इसके लिए input क्या है? Steam. From where does this steam come? Over here. So you got to match these two things. So कैसा है? Steam का output will be allocated to power and to sugar production. Are you able to understand? But what cost statement are we going to prepare? We are going to prepare cost statement for sugar only. We are not going to prepare cost statement of power unless and until it is exported or you get revenue from that, right? Then power का output कहाँ पे जाएगा? Power का output will be utilized in sugar factory and distillery. So power में से जो cost निकलेगा, that will be proportionately allocated to sugar factory and to distillery. So because power is an utility. When it is not a final product, first it comes as an utility. It can be used as an utility as well as a final product. It can take two forms. जो final product के लिए जाएगा, that alone will be allocated and that will go get into the cost statement. Got it? Sugar is a very complicated kind of a costing. So once if you do the costing for sugar industry, other things becomes much simpler. Okay? So now for this question, what is required and what are they asking? The high pressure steam generated in first used for generation of the power and the exhaust steam is used in the process of sugar manufacture. So that is why I have given these two allocations. Okay. The following details are extracted from the financial accounts and cost accounting records of the company. So high pressure steam कितना generate हो रहा है? 34,780 metric ton. So this high pressure steam is entirely will get into the power manufacturing. ठीक है? Steam turbine will generate power for you. What are all the costs that they are giving? See, in case of boiler, you have water, then you have fuel, that is the bagasse, you are going to burn it, stores and chemicals, salaries and wages for boiler, repairs and maintenance, depreciation, other expenses. Okay? So all these will come under the steam production. Now what they are taking? Steam to be taken as 80% of cost of steam. Just a minute. Yeah. To calculate cost of power generated, credit for the exhaust steam to be taken as 80% of the cost of steam. You are required, so cost of power generated में credit for exhaust मतलब that needs to be adjusted. What is that? That is the exhaust steam which should be taken as 80% of the cost of steam. जो भी cost निकलेगा steam में से उसमें से 80% goes as exhaust steam for sugar manufacturing. So they have given the calculation. 20% goes into power generation, 80% goes to the manufacturing, for the sugar manufacturing. You are required to prepare two separate cost sheet for steam and power as per the company's rules 2014, cost records and audit rules 2014 for the year ended 31st March 2015. So we have to prepare two different cost statements, one for steam, another for power. So shall we prepare it? Yes. So cost statement of steam for the year ended 31st March 2015. Particulars, amount in rupees inner column and amount in rupees outer column. So first comes materials. Alright, so what are all the inputs that you are going to use? You are going to use water as an input for steam production. Alright, so write down all those things. So you have water 1048 170, then you have fuel for that. So this is an utility used here, 921 lakhs 43 460. Okay. Then you have stores and chemicals. This will come under, actually chemicals अलग से करते हैं और stores and spares अलग से रहता है cost statement में, but here they didn't give us the split, so we are directly taking as 2,57,070. Salaries and wages, it is very specific to this department, that is who is working in those boilers. Unka salaries and wages is to the extent of 29,58,250. Then coming to repair and maintenance, that is very specific to that boiler. Okay, so repair and maintenance 65, 64, 200. Then depreciation pertaining to boiler 17 lakhs 24 700. Other expenses, these are all your overhead expenses but directly related to the boiler, 39 lakhs 93 600. So all this put together is this much. Sorry. Ten crores 86 lakhs 89,450 rupees. This is the entire cost against the output of, so output is very important over here. So how much is the output? High pressure, how much is the generated one? 34,780 metric ton. 1 metric ton is 1000 kgs. Okay. So cost per metric ton kitna hai? If you look at the water consumption per metric ton, so that is nothing but this divided by this. So totally it comes to 3,125.06, which is the cost per metric ton production value. So always while you prepare cost statement as per the cost audit rules, it's not just the final amount that you got to do, you have to do it as cost per metric ton of output, cost per kilowatt hour. This is very important to be included in the format. Got it? So अभी तक जो भी cost statement बना रहे थे, we used to never think about this portion, right? We always used to do this so far, but now on, when it comes to cost audit rules, we are supposed to do this way. Got it? Since it's a question, it's very easy to determine. Got it? But they have given everything which is pertaining to, correct? But in real life situation, you will never get such a simple thing. You will have water. Actually, boiler में RO water ही use करते हैं. Got it? So how much RO water is needed to produce this much of steam? And RO water क्या होता है? There will be only one water plant. They will have a water reservoir, that is there will be a direct connection from the river from where the water will be stored. This stored water will go into the RO plant. Then whatever is the output of the RO water, that will be distributed to distillery as well as to sugar factory. तो यहाँ पे allocation हो जाएगा. That water will flow into this boiler. Got it? And that will produce steam. Once again, steam will be split into sugar factory and power. Power will be split into your sugar distillery or sometimes even sale outside. So likewise, there is always allocations happening for these utilities. It is not a straightforward thing. Like example, they have given stores and chemicals. When you look at financial records, you will never find stores and chemicals separately for steam. You will have all consumable stores booked together. But you have to get into the details of how much stores has been used for this steam department. When it comes to chemicals, chemicals are peculiar things. Chemicals used by distillery will be different from the chemicals used by sugar industry. Sugar industry mein main chemicals are lime and sulfur. That is why we call sugar is dangerous. Because they use that sulfur, which is just yellow color smoke, they use the sulfur smoke to bleach the sugar. So more the white a sugar is, more of bleaching has happened to the sugar. So that is why sugar is dangerous. So actually if we visit a sugar factory, we will stop using sugar in our diet itself, because that is so dangerous. They use sulfuric gas and they use liquid lime. They mix the lime, they use that in the process, and they put this sulfur gas, sulfuric gas, and they bleach the sugar. So this is how it happens. Then coming to salaries and wages. Never salaries and wages, or you cannot directly trace it. You have to get records from the HR team. You have to find out how many headcounts are allocated to that steam plant, and then you have to find out how much is the salaries and wages for steam. So in a real life situation, finding out all these things is a bit difficult. But when it comes to problems, it is much easier. Because sab kuch straightforward they have given it to you. Got it? So now what we have to do is, we have to give this allocation. So what is that they are telling is 80% is for the exhaust steam. Right? So 20% will come here. Got it? So what we got to do for the cost statement of power for the year. So let me prepare the cost statement over here. I've given the output here, I'll put it here. Okay, so that our formulas doesn't get affected. So this is total cost of steam. Now from here we are moving to cost of power. So here what is our output as far as power is concerned? So as far as power is concerned, it is output is, how much have they generated? 25,40,000 kilowatt hours. Okay. So now particulars, amount, cost per kilowatt hour. Be careful about the unit of measurement. So while we take this, first input is steam. So let us take the steam cost entirely. So how much is the steam cost? It is 10,86,89,450. Okay. Apart from that, what we will do? We will find out the separate cost, like water, fuel, bagasse is not needed for turbine. So it starts from salaries and wages, repair, maintenance, depreciation and other expenses. So I'll just copy these things. So all these things are going to come here. So how much is that? Yeah. Stores is not there. Oh, stores is also there. Stores and chemicals. Okay. I'll put it here. Okay. So let me just include all the cost. So I have stores and chemicals 65, 695, 7,32,900, 2,57,700, 6,49,600 depreciation, other expenses 1,20,700. Okay, now I have to give credit for exhaust steam because this cost is not entirely for power. 80% is for sugar consumption. So I take off 80% of this. Got it? Now we give total cost of power. That is nothing but sum of all these costs minus this one. Cost per kilowatt hour is nothing but this divided by this much. Sorry, I forgot to lock the cell. So it is almost 9 rupees per kilowatt hour. Is there any 9 rupees 28 paise? So this is my cost of generating per kilowatt hour. This is my in-house cost, that is captively generated power. This along with I can also go for purchase of power from MSEB. So what will happen? I'll add these two costs together. What I pay as a bill will also be taken into consideration for the total cost of power. But here we don't have such information. If we have that, even that will be added. वहाँ पे और कुछ cost नहीं आएगा. Directly MSEB का bill यहाँ पे include कर देंगे and we will add that. Make it as total power cost. Got it? Are you able to understand? This is how the cost statement. So you might be thinking, ma'am, why not we exclude it directly here? Why we have to show it as a credit? Always when there is a possibility of credit recoveries, you have to show it separately. You should not directly adjust here and put just 20% over here. But this is your last one, right? Which is being used. Which is the last one? The total cost of power per kilowatt hour is this much. The steam that is totally getting into it is this much, but out of which the credit is being given for the exhaust steam. Actually, in real cost sheet, I cannot show you that. Maybe after the session, I'll show you how it looks like. Because these things are getting recorded. So I cannot show that statement. So the thing is, the allocation itself happens and only the allocated steam will go to the power sheet. Okay. But here when you have to calculate the cost of power, the way it looks like is they have specifically given that you have to give a credit for exhaust steam. That is why you are giving this adjustment of credit for exhaust steam. Usually in a real life thing what happens is steam के इसमें ही नीचे एक column रहेगा wherein we will put the allocations. Steam का allocation थोड़ा sugar के लिए जाएगा and थोड़ा इसमें जाएगा power generation में जाएगा. So directly the power generation will be linked to the power sheet which will be in the utilities and sugar का sugar में जाके utilities में जाके बैठेगा. That is how we link it in our things. But here since they have given specifically note to calculate the cost of power generated, credit for exhaust steam to be taken. Since they are asking us to give a credit, so we are giving a credit here. Okay, so for example, अब bagasse है. Bagasse is used for steam. Okay. अब there is also another question. Will the entire bagasse be used for producing steam? And will the entire steam be used for power generation? No, not at all. Because for example, power is your ultimate thing that is going to happen. So power generation matlab you have to go by the capacity of the turbines. How many kilowatt hours can my turbine actually produce? Only based on that much steam will be given to it, right? Only based on the steam that is going to be given, bagasse will be utilized. Then what will be the remaining bagasse? What will I do to that remaining bagasse? I'll supply it either to the distillery or I'll supply it outside, sell it in the open market. So that is going to give me some revenue. But bagasse is my byproduct or main product? It is my byproduct. So I should take a credit of this sale revenue in my sugar cost statement. Are you able to understand? So this is how it happens. So sometimes we do go by back calculations. कितना power capacity है, उस power के हिसाब से what should be the intake of steam for that. For this much of steam, how much bagasse I need. Then apart from that bagasse, whatever is left over, has it been sold? How much is my closing stock? So it is like too many things goes into calculation. One is a straightforward calculation. Another one is you do a back calculation. So we always ask the production team, say bagasse, उसमें भी loss होता है. What happens? The bagasse is very dry thing, right? While it gets processed, it will escape into air. So you cannot do anything about it. Whatever is remaining with you, handling bagasse is very difficult. So if you get an opportunity to visit a sugar factory, you will understand all these things by visiting it. So bagasse kya hota hai? They will just load it in the trucks. Well, they load also, what will happen? It will fly in the air. So there will be lot of loss of bagasse that you cannot do anything about it. That is the normal loss. Got it? So did you understand this cost statement of steam and power? This is how it is prepared. Then coming to distillery. See, this is particularly for distillery process. Srijo S Limited of Gandhinagar, producing industrial alcohol, generates biogas from the waste wash of alcohol in its biogas plant. Usually distillery have this biogas plant. वहाँ से जो biogas आता है, they will also mix that with compost and they will manufacture sometimes fertilizers also. कभी-कभी fertilizers also they manufacture and sell it in the market. So this biogas is utilized here in generating steam along with the conventional fuel oil. Conventional fuel oil in the sense, apart from the normal fuel, they also use this biogas as a fuel to burn the water, to heat the water and convert it into steam. So here biogas is a byproduct or a main product? It is an industrial alcohol factory which is generating biogas, and this biogas is used for producing steam. So biogas is a byproduct which is used and which is captively consumed. You are not selling it outside. That gas is used in. So see here, usually sugar factory mein, the one thing I have felt the problem is, see, the unit of measurements are so different. For example, steam, which is the output, is measured in metric ton. The water which is used is the input, will be in liters or metric ton. And then bagasse will be in metric ton. But value generate power. Power value use as an input for other things. What will happen? Power comes as a kilowatt hour. But what is the input that is going in? It goes in metric tons, which is steam. So always there is a unit of measurement change. It's not like 1000 kgs raw cotton laga rahe hain, 1000 kgs of yarn nikal raha hai. It is in kgs. But when it goes in a measurement in a different way, you should do all these conversions to happen. कितना metric ton, कितना kilowatt hour or megawatt. So turbines usually उसका capacity megawatt में रहेगा. So what you do, you convert that into kilowatt hour, and then you find out कितना metric ton will give you how much kilowatt hour. So likewise, there are a lot of unit of measurements that gets converted in the process. Input will be in another unit of measurement, output will be in another unit of measurement. Okay. So over here what they have told, the high pressure steam is first sent to the steam turbine and the exhaust steam is used in the process of manufacturing alcohol. See, always the steam you have two categories. One is high pressure steam, another one is exhaust steam. High pressure steam will go for generation of power because it has pressure in it. You need that pressure. You call it as RPM, rotation per, they have something, per motion or something for electricity generation. They say this is the RPM of the machinery, of the turbine. So, itne bar rotate karke, it will generate the steam into power. That is RPM, which is specific for those turbines. Okay, and the exhaust steam is used in the process of manufacturing the alcohol. The following details are extracted from the financial accounts and the cost accounting records. See, here you have boiler, steam turbine. So boiler से क्या बनने वाला है? Steam बनने वाला है. Steam turbine से क्या बनने वाला है? Power बनने वाला है. So cost of water, fuel oil, biogas plant expenses. So this is whatever is the plant expenses, it has been given here. Store, chemical, salary, wages, depreciation, other expenses. What is the thing? High pressure steam generated is this much, this is the output, and power generated is this much. Got it? So what you are going to do? You are just directly going to prepare a cost statement for steam. Adding all these things will be the cost of the total cost of steam. At each and every stage, you are going to find cost per metric ton by dividing this amount divided by the output. Got it? So this you can easily do it. So you take this for practice. But they have given a note. See? Fall in the enthalpic value of the steam is 10%. मतलब ये loss के तरह है. Enthalpy, I was telling you, right? It is combination of two energies, heat and pressure. Steam is combination. So we measure steam in terms of enthalpy. So the enthalpic value of steam, there is a fall to the extent of 10%. So this is going to impact your power. So we are going to give the effect of this 10% fall in the power. Got it? So if we have to prepare a statement for steam, it is much easier. We are just going to add all the cost. But if you are going to prepare it for power, it is going to be different thing. Okay? Enthalpic value is 10%. Yeah. So ये क्या करेंगे? हमारे enthalpic value, we will get a credit. We will give a credit of 90% to manufacturing. Exhaust steam. ठीक है? तो ये 10% वहाँ पे adjust हो जाएगा. So I will just prepare it for power. You prepare it for steam on your own. Okay? So let me use the cost statement. So if you look at this question, this is very technical, right? So this is for the power of 25, 50, 200 kilowatt hours. Amount in rupees and cost per kilowatt hour. So if you see, you have salaries and wages, repair and maintenance. So what I will do, I will take the steam cost, entire cost. So I am just copying it from the answer. Entire cost comes to 13 lakhs 13 crores 34,000. Okay, apart from that I'll copy it from the question. Salaries and wages, Yeah, we have stores and chemicals also over here. Stores and chemicals, which is coming to 66,000. Salaries and wages, 7,33,000. Repair and maintenance, 2,58,000. Depreciation, 6,50,000. And other expenses, which is 1,21,000. Less credit, exhaust steam, which is 90%, wherein you have adjusted 10% for the enthalpy loss. So what you will do is you will take 90% of this, which is almost 12 crore something something. So what is the cost of power used in alcohol? Sum of all these things comes to 13,62,000, correct? Minus this is 90%, which is 1,52,00,000. Credit for exhaust steam, 10% enthalpy loss. Value is of 10%. So if you see the cost per kilowatt hour, it will be on this. So almost 5.98. Got it? So are you able to understand? So here in the book, what they have done, just a minute. Okay. So are you able to understand? This is how we make it, the cost statements. So I was able to explain this to you because I am handling these industries. So that is why I am actually aware of this, so it is much easier to explain. But when the industry itself is totally different, it's very difficult to find out such critical things. Only if we understand how the process goes on, we'll be able to do it. Okay? So what I want to do is, I want to take you through the statements that we got to prepare. Like for the first time when you are going to approach an industry for cost audit, if someone has come to you and that is for the first time you are going to do, what are the things that you have to do? That is called a cost audit program. इसके ऊपर theory questions आ चुके हैं. So let's discuss on cost audit program. ठीक है? Just a minute. So let me excuse me, go to cost audit program. So it is page number 326 of your book. I'll go to the book. cost audit program. This, as I told, I'll be choosing one topic from where you will get a sure short question. Then we will do some problems from the previous year question paper and some record rules or cost accounting standards. So with this combination, we will be able to cover everything and you will also find not boring, okay? So what is this cost audit program? Cost audit program is, it is a checklist that you have to create before you get into any kind of an industry. What is that? What is that checklist you got to prepare? See here. You have audit of production product wise. Product wise matlab including main products, byproducts. For example, if it is a textile industry, just I was telling, raw cotton is generated into yarn, right? So what will be there in your products? You will have raw cotton, you will have yarn. That's it. Input is in the form of cotton, output is in the form of yarn. So each and everything will have a different unit of measurement, right? So here in yarn, of course it is also in kg, so no issues. But in some cases it will be different. So इसके लिए आपको क्या बनाना है product wise, क्या जानना है? You should know the opening stock plus the production for the year minus the closing stock, whatever is the thing should be the sales. But will the sales quantity exactly match with the sales quantity? It may or may not, because there will be some losses. And this production could be different in case of raw material. Raw material में क्या होगा? That will be consumption. So for example, if I am going to prepare a product wise, so see, they have given a checklist: opening stock, production, external sales, internal transfers, closing stock. So I am going to prepare something like this. This is for the finished product. Are you able to understand? If it is a raw material, it will be opening stock. Instead of production, it will be consumption. External sales तो नहीं करेंगे हम. Internal transfer का possibility है. But raw material को we don't internally transfer. We just allocate it. And directly we get closing stock. इसमें और एक भी आप add कर सकते हैं, that is the loss. Handling में loss हो सकता है. Like for example, if it is bagasse, always there is a loss percentage associated to it. कि इतना loss जरूर होगा. Got it? But for raw materials like sugar cane, अब sugar cane में क्या loss होगा? Everything will be taken, it will be pushed into the mill. They will be lifted and they will put it in the mill. So automatically वो crusher में जाके crush हो जाएगा. There is not something called कि उसमें wastage है. Everything, whatever comes in the load, that will be loaded into the crushers. Okay. So वहाँ पे losses नहीं है. जितना metric ton sugar cane जाएगा, उतना metric ton उसमें से sugar निकलेगा. It's not metric ton. Some sugar is calculated in quintals. So you calculate metric ton of sugar cane, giving you quintals of sugar. ऐसे ही रहता है. एंड वो शुगर केन में सिर्फ मेट्रिक टन अंदर नहीं जाता है, उसके अलावा हम कोजन वगैरह है हमारा, एवरीथिंग इज इन डिफरेंट यूनिट ऑफ मेजरमेंट. बट द मेन प्रोडक्ट, मेन रॉ मटेरियल फॉर शुगर इज शुगर केन. गॉट इट? सो शुगर केन को क्या करते हैं? दे पुट इट इन द क्रशर, दे एक्सट्रैक्ट द जूस. द जूस इज फर्दर प्रोसेस्ड and treated with sulfur and you get crystallized sugar. So from solid sugarcane you extract liquid juice. The juice is then processed and crystallized, once again formed into solid part, and that is what is your sugar. See how much transformation is happening to that material. Got it? अब cotton में क्या होगा? Cotton you get yarn. Yarn will be in the form of a thread that will be spin around into the cones. Got it? So that is a different shape. You get cotton, which is also solid, which is converted into yarn, which is thread like thing. So everywhere input output analysis and visualization is very important. So first thing what you are going to prepare, you are going to prepare production product wise. So this will be the quantitative information. जो हमने पहले फॉर्म CRA3 में क्वांटिटेटिव इंफॉर्मेशन वी सॉ, राइट, इंस्टॉल कैपेसिटी, अवेलेबल कैपेसिटी, हाउ मच इज द यूज्ड कैपेसिटी ऑन, सो वहां पे द फाइनल प्रोडक्ट का क्वांटिटीज यहीं से ही जाएगा. Got it? Then we have audit of raw material cost. What are all the raw materials that are getting into each of the things? That will get in. Audit of key raw materials inventory status. Key raw materials, that is, you have so many raw materials in your closing stock. So do you know that ABC analysis of stock control? Always better control. Always the input which is very costly, always you should have a good control over it. The input that is not that costly, okay, so you should have a better control for it. And another thing is just a control is enough. So that way you have to identify the key raw materials and look into it. Audit of electricity cost. So देखिए electricity cost के लिए they would have given a different. See, for raw material cost, purchase minus consumption. See, they have talked about consumption, which will give you the closing stock. Then if you look at, this is raw material. Sorry, I am going just back and forth. Audit of raw material cost. See, ensure that proper quantitative inventory balancing is carried out for all the raw materials. Opening stock plus purchases minus consumption is equal to closing stock. This closing stock quantity should match with your closing stock quantity in your balance sheet. Balance sheet में सिर्फ financial numbers रहते हैं, but उसके पीछे quantity आपको find out करना पड़ेगा production team से. वो अगर इसके साथ match नहीं हुआ, then you have to question the production team why it is not matching. Actually it should match, right? Then work out input output ratios. We have done that input output ratio, yes. Then in case of chemical based industries, what happens? Some chemicals tend to evaporate during their storage, which will be taken as normal loss divided by the quantity which is available. So normal loss के लिए हर वक्त the denominator will be the quantity that is available, the good quantity. अब escape हो गया air में तो उसका कुछ नहीं कर सकते. Whatever is remaining quantity is the quantity which is available. So that will be taken into consideration. In some cases it may happen that residue of some particular raw material is not reusable but has to be sold out to the market. ऐसे भी हो सकता है. तो अगर sold out किया है, you get something out of it, that needs to be given as credit. Like for example, I was telling, raw cotton का bales आके उतरता है. Bales is a big bundles. So one bale is equal to, they have certain kgs. This many kgs or this many bales of cotton is being there, is stored as raw material. Now this will be going through all the machines. So what I said was, like, when it goes through all the machines, there are some cotton waste that escapes under each of the process. What do you do with this cotton waste? You sell it out in the market. That will fetch you less amount, but that is a recovery. So that is what they are telling. In such cases, the sale value of residue of the raw material will be reduced from the raw material consumption. You give the credit for it. Got it? So एक देखा normal loss, another one is जो loss हो रहा है, for that you are getting a sale value. If it is evaporating, you cannot do anything. But if it is in the form of waste and that is resaleable, you can sell it in the market and that can be adjusted. Now next comes R&D department has carried out some process improvement. So what will happen? It needs to be checked how much raw material consumption has reduced. You have to check this. That is based on input output ratio. So if you take the input output ratio for 3 to 4 consecutive years, you can easily find out whether they have improved or not. So it should give a higher input output ratio. That is, input and output के बीच में loss percentage कम होना चाहिए. If that loss percentage has come down, then you can say yes, your R&D has helped in reducing the loss percentage. If not, your R&D is of no use. Got it? So that is what they are telling. Then for charging raw material to cost or products, both FIFO and weighted average rates can be applied. So it depends upon, you know, the methods of inventory valuation. LIFO, FIFO, last in first out, average cost. Usually क्या होता है, when we prepare the cost statements, it's very difficult to see each and everything saying that whether this is last in first out and other things. So what we actually do is we go by the average cost method. It's much easier. You add all the bills together, divided by the quantity, that is the average cost. Yes, so that is what they have given. And then usually a company prepares expense control chart where raw material is shown by different cost centers, like production cost centers, utility cost centers, like filtered water. DM water is nothing but RO water, demineralized water, boiler, cooling water, etc. The total of these cost centers should agree with the total raw material consumption as per the trial balance. Like for example, I have calculated this much RO water is produced during the year through the RO plant. ये water कहाँ जाने वाला है? I should be careful about it. If it goes into the boiler, okay, it is only used for boiler. If this RO is used somewhere else, those quantitative figures I will get it. I will also get this figure. I will try to tally these things. So sometimes I go by the output, sometimes I go by the input and tally these two things. That should tally. If not, I have to ask the production team. Because this much water has gone is the output of the RO plant. But this should tally with wherever it has been distributed, right? So I will check at the end points as well as at the starting point also. So this checking of quantities is very, very important for audit purpose. If there is a difference in quantity, then we should always question them ki why there is a difference and get the explanation. So they may tell they would have used it, or there could be some loss during the distribution, or they will say that it would have got evaporated, or kitna percentage de rahe hain. So that and all we have to mention in our report. Then raw materials can be local or imported. Imported का अलग से लगाना चाहिए, local का अलग से होना चाहिए. You should keep track of these two. ठीक है. Then similarly it may happen to local and self manufactured raw materials. वो भी हो सकता है. Then there are so many points. Rented storage. So if you have, sometimes the company may keep rented storage tank at port to store the material which is subsequently brought to the company premises. This rent will form of cost of part of the cost of material. So ये क्या है? Once again we have to apply the cost record rules of materials, cost accounting standard of material cost to find out whether this cost will be included or not. For example, there was a question, right, on demurrage cost. Do you remember that? Demurrage is the charges that you have to pay to the port authorities to clear your stock as soon as it arrives there. तो ये क्या है? A fine penalty के तरह है. So it should not be included in our cost records. So that is how we have to go by cost accounting standards and record rules and then determine whether this cost will come in cost record or not. So that is why we go through each and every point of it and do it. Got it? So like, see, demurrage or detention charges or any penalty levied should not form part of landed cost of raw material. So from here they have picked up the question whether this will be included or not. So यहाँ पे क्या है? Reading through the book is very, very important. If you take raw material cost, there are so many exceptions and points over there. So you have to go through that. Got it? So यहाँ पे cost audit में mainly क्या है? You should remember things like we have exceptions, exemptions and all in income tax. Taxation में कैसे कितने सारे change ये रहते हैं exceptions. Similarly, you have lot of things over here that you got to remember. Okay? So will you do that exercise? Though I will be telling you the points which you got to remember, but still you have to go give a good reading a thorough reading of the book. Only then you will be able to answer those multiple choice questions. So see how they have done key material balancing. So likewise, these are the records that we got to maintain. Yes. So I would like to end my class here. Fine. So we will see other cost audit program reports in our next session. Got it? So that's all from my side for today. Let's meet next Monday. Thank you and good night.